One of our team names is the chosen ones, so I just feel chosen. Like that's it. Like I feel chosen. Like there's always a chosen one, like that meme on Instagram with Trump. I'm the chosen one. Somebody had to do it, so that's how I feel, to be a force to be reckoned with. I just feel like I would be wasting what I have in me, because I know that, and I'm not performing by any means at my max potential. I know I'm not. So I know, like, if I could do this much with the little bit of effort that I have put into the industry, how much more could I really do?
On this episode of High Value Discussions, we are joined by someone who embodies true leadership in helping others change their financial trajectory. As the co-owner of PHP Agency, she is a true mastermind in the world of business, entrepreneurship, life insurance, and leadership. PHP Agency isn't just a company, it's a movement. It's an organization that's rewriting the rules of financial services, striving to enhance the lives of families and igniting a new generation of entrepreneurs who are keeping the spirit of capitalism thriving. My guest has been the forefront of this transformative journey, dedicating her expertise to not only secure futures, but also to foster communities driven by knowledge and empowerment. With her at the helm, PHP Agency is pioneering changes that extend beyond financial growth, reaching into the very fabric of society to build a legacy of prosperity. She is here to share her insights on how strategic financial planning can be a game changer in your life and how you too can be a part of this remarkable journey. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Teresa Esquivez. The first time I met you was in February, and
Yes.
You left a really good mark, but not just on me, people. You walked inside this networking event with authority. You walked in with confidence. You walked in with an aura to the point where everybody noticed. I'm kind of curious, where did that confidence come from?
Well, pretty simple. I heard it one day. I heard it as a tip one day because I've been networking for over, I want to say like 8 years now. And towards the beginning of that, somebody said one day, you got to walk into the room like you own the place. So no matter where you're walking in, you have to believe it in your heart and your soul that you are the owner of that place.
Yeah.
To the point that I've had people multiple times ask me, like, are you the owner? Like, just because of the energy that I carry. And I truly do, before I walk in through the door, I say, this is my place. This is my space. So
did that accumulate over time, or was there a specific age where you hit where just like you were naturally just confident?
I can't pinpoint it to any. I think I just naturally, like, how they say some people are born with it, some people grow into it.
Yes.
I somehow think that I was born with it, and then I discovered it. And if I could say an age, potentially around 15, 16, probably.
If we can start from your upbringing, what was your upbringing like for you?
It was wonderful. I don't have a sad story, when it comes to my upbringing. My parents are, still married, wonderful marriage. They're immigrants from Mexico. They came here illegally into this country. My dad, started, working as a truck driver ever since the beginning. And after, I remember it was probably around one of the recessions in like 2001, that I remember my dad was upset about something about the job. I couldn't quite comprehend because I wasn't used to them, arguing or him being upset in general. So at that time was when my dad became a business owner as well. So somewhere along the lines of that, I discovered that we could be our own bosses, so that was great. My siblings, typical like sibling fights, my sister grabbed my stuff, mom, stuff like that. But I would come home to a warm meal in the kitchen. My clothing was washed, and my mom has been a stay-at-home mother ever since. And I asked her one time too, what was her dream career? And she said, I actually dreamed of having my family and taking care of you guys. So she took care of that, and I can see why still she does it with her whole heart. So my upbringing was great. my sad story doesn't start at that point. I made the decision myself to get married at 16. So it is legal to do that, which if any 16-year-olds are watching, like I'm not going to suggest that you go and do that, right? But yet I wouldn't do it any different. I still would do it all over again because of where I am today. But I got married at 16. I stayed in that marriage for about 13 years. We had 2 wonderful daughters. Today they're 16 and 8 years old. But along those years, I guess, like, that's when the difficulty really started. I didn't know marriages had arguments. I had no idea. I'm telling you, my upbringing was perfect. I had no idea that marriages had arguments. And when we had our first, I said, what is this? What is this? Like, this is not something that I'm used to. So ever since then, I started kind of realizing that everything is not rainbows and butterflies. So then after that point, I make sure that my daughters know that it's not always perfect everywhere, that, there are good people on this planet, but I don't believe in this whole, be nice to everybody, treat others how you want to be treated. I'm more about treat others how they treat you, because if somebody's treating my daughters badly, I don't want them to turn around and think that they have to be nice to this person. So They got to stand up for themselves.
110%. And I love that mindset that you have, because I was raised to always treat how you would like to be treated. But I love that philosophy, because that is different, especially as you get older. There's a lot of snakes. There's a lot of blackness when it comes to business. And we want to be the light of business, but we also want to be aware. And that's very, very important.
Yes.
So what caught your interest when it comes to the business world? Was it your father, or was it something else?
It was probably a little bit of my father. I'm always known as a feisty person. But I didn't quite discover that I had this power to have like really good comebacks, when people try to be mean to me. But one time in middle school, I remember and I love my white girls, but like it was some white girl that told me, because I was Mexican, right? I was one of the brown girls, that she told me something about like my family, right? Just, being Hispanic in general. So I remember I said, well, at least my dad doesn't call another man a boss. And it was kind of like that got her to be quiet. So I was like, that kind of holds a lot of power, so I don't know what it was there that kind of sparked my interest. Like, what is it about, being a business owner that's cool, that can get somebody to be quiet, So I feel like that was sort of the beginning of it. And then just human resources is the avenue that I took, because I do hold a business degree, a bachelor's in business. But it was more because I wanted to do human resources, and it just happened to fall under business administration, but I wanted to help people, stand up for people. And along that line, I wanted to learn about money too. So it just kind of all came into play, and all just kind of started connecting like puzzle. Still to this day, I'm the only one that's interested to really know how money works. To the point that they might hate me a little bit, or like want me to stop this, and they're like, you're crazy, what are you doing? But a lot of our families are behind when it comes to financial literacy. But I don't blame it on them, at all. Like, I know that it's, part of the system. Public schools are not meant to teach people how to really set themselves up, and young people are not taught to even think about retirement. But I thought about it, because I said in my mind, I want to retire by the time I'm 50. I want to be able to walk in a plane and not have to be, rolled in a wheelchair. So because of that concept, I said, all right, so if people start really worrying about retirement until their 30s or 40s, if I start worrying about it in my 20s, then I probably will be ahead of the game. So that's what kind of like also got me into wanting to learn about money as well.
Life insurance in particular. What sparked the interest for you when it comes to life insurance?
So in that concept as well, even with a bachelor's, even, being a part of the dean's list, from California State University, I still didn't know anything about money. So I still didn't know anything about life insurance. So I remember thinking, because at that time I was already, when I started thinking about life insurance, I was already maybe 5 years into my trucking business. That's my first business was in trucking. I started thinking about what's going to happen if I can't work anymore. What if I get sick? What if I get injured? I'm a single mom, because after 13 years of marriage is when I ended that. And I became a single mom, and I said, if I'm the sole provider for my children, what's going to happen to them if I can no longer work? I know there's something out there. I don't know what it's called. I don't know how it works. So I got to start doing some research. So it was TikTok, now it's banned, I guess, but I don't even know if it is. I quite honestly, after I discovered the policy and the product that I have now that got me into the industry, I never really went back into TikTok. So it was like an in and out. It just made me discover the industry and just research.
Because even when you're in the life insurance space as well, where we may think we have an inclination of what retirement is, but when you're in the field, you have a more eye-opening where you're like, I didn't know this. What was that one thing that hit you that really surprised you about the space?
That you don't necessarily have to be directly responsible for paying taxes. That's the part that I said, how come nobody taught us that we don't have to give our money to Uncle Sam, that he's not really your uncle, it's just some guy that wants to take your money, you know? So the tax codes that I learned, you know? So I said, how come they're not out in the open? And why is car insurance required and not life insurance, you know?
Yes.
So I started asking these questions. So at times I can be kind of questioning the system per se, you know? I can be like, you know, the matrix, those conversations. I'm all very passionate about that stuff too. But that would probably be a different podcast, you know.
Part two.
But you know, part two. But I do believe that was a big shocker to me, finding out those tax codes that I know could literally put a lot of our people in position to really make sure that every dime that they put towards their retirement can actually be, you know, enjoyed by the family.
Yeah. And when it comes to learning a new skill, particularly in life insurance, what were the challenges when it comes to you being involved inside that business?
For myself in particular, nothing really, because it does, like, for an average person, and I would say average because they're not really business minded, or they don't come with so much of a drive, or they don't know why, they just want to learn about money. To me, it was a very, like, this is what I was made for, you know, more than anything, because going back on my degree, my concentrations were HR and finance, which is people and money. Yeah. So this business, you know, this agency is all about people and money. So I felt like, and then it was all psychology too, about leading people with different attitudes, different backgrounds. So it was what I wanted to do. So it wasn't challenging to me. More than anything, it was like I found where I belong, you know? So, but for new people that don't come from this, you know, that don't come from the business desire, I would say, for them, the challenging part is just the mindset that it takes, you know, like don't waver from, you know, wanting to chase your dreams, that they're so used to letting other people outside of these walls, like, pursue them into stopping their dreams, you know? Yes. So that's the challenging part for other people.
And is it also challenging for you? Because I know you guide and mentor so many people. Is it very difficult when you do put so much time into these individuals, but there's no execution really happening on their end?
No, not at all. I really do think that the ROI that, you know, you put into just people in general, it doesn't come from that person in particular. It just comes from life in general. You know, I do believe a lot in the universe. What you put out into the universe is what's going to come back to you tenfold. So I'm just looking at that person as I'm doing my part. You know, and then if they do theirs, great. If they don't do it, you know, I hope they leave me being a better person, and they can be a good asset to the community, which at the end of the day is a community where my kids live. Agreed. You know, so I feel like if this doesn't work out for them, because it's not for everybody, it really isn't for everybody. So if they come in here and they learn how money works, if they learn people skills, if they learn how to be the best manager at a McDonald's, like, that is to me the biggest gift, that they can be a good person and a good asset to the community. So it comes back to me eventually, you know?
Yeah, and you do get an ROI because every time you talk about it, you teach it, you practice it, you're getting an ROI because it sinks it into you. Because I feel like we learn more when we teach, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I feel like every time I've explained things, it's kind of sunk in with me. I feel like, because I don't process things very easily, I have to obsess over something in order for it to sink in. But when I say it out loud, it's like embedded into me.
Yeah, teaching definitely teaches you more than the person taking notes, right? Because not only are you teaching them in a moment, you also have to prepare to give the lesson, you know? So as you're preparing, you know, you are having to research to make sure that especially in this industry, like, it's laws and different things that are involved. So you want to make sure that you're saying something that, you know, it applies and is legal, and you got to guard them also on what words to use and not to use. Yeah. So, it's teaching definitely has made me, you know, grow into a better mentor and a better coach in this industry.
And being in this business, it is very freeing because, like you said, this is what you were made to do. Yes. But also helping so many other people and passing on this information, that way it can upscale their life, is very, very rewarding, because there is this weird feeling that we get when it comes to giving back. Right. And I've always talked about that, where put yourself in a space where you are of value to people. That way you could be of some use. Right. And for you have this look to you where you have fulfillment and meaning. But that comes from passing on information because you know you're helping other people. And that's why you have that glow to you, because you're doing God's work.
Yes, absolutely. I do firmly believe that, because that's my prayer every morning, actually, to make sure that, you wake up, first of all, grateful you got another day, right? Not everybody gets to wake up every day. But I do also, give my prayers to keep my family safe, keep me safe in my work, but also to make sure that whatever I say is like God's words through me and just using me as his vessel. So absolutely. I do believe that if we're not here to actually, do something and make a change and have a purpose for other people other than ourselves, like it doesn't fulfill a person. Like if there's anybody out there like that feels empty, try helping, do something, to help other people, or participate in your church, participate in like a local shelter, and see how that it makes you feel like it fills up a void that you might have had, so doing God's work is absolutely what can truly just, from that point on, everything else in your life just starts like filling up and you feel like an overflow of abundance.
Yes. And speaking of people, the short amount of time that I've been here, just walking in here, setting up everything, I've met some phenomenal people. And I love being in a space like that where people are just very open-minded. People are outliers. They're here to learn. They're here to elevate their life. Talk about that environment, because it's so sad when I hear other people and they're looking for that environment, but man, it's there.
Yeah. And just to like even emphasize, it's Sunday, 4 p.m., right? And it's Cinco de Mayo. So like, and yet you still ran into some amazing people here looking sharp, ready to learn and running some appointments to help some families out. I do know that there has to be a lot of people looking for something like this, but the funny thing is that you'll bring them into this, like an introductory presentation. And most of them actually still feel very skeptical, because there's so much lack of this out there that when they find something, they feel like it's not real.
Too good to be true.
Too good to be true. Yeah. So they feel like it's too good to be true. And, just like, I always think, and I always like, think back to when I used to watch videos from, millionaires, and I used to have those intrusive thoughts like, it's so easy for them. They come from money. Their daddy handed them all this money. Right. And I'm thinking like, that is not true. But then you come into environments where you're surrounded by people making, like the 1% of America is here as your mentors and your coaches. So you start listening to them, and then it starts kind of, again, the puzzles pieces, right? Like, man, everything that they were saying, like in those videos that I used to watch when I didn't have that mentality, was all real. They do want to help us get better. There are people that make a lot of money that want to help you make a lot of money. But it's just more of it has to come, for people to come into this environment, it has to come from them. They have to want it more than I want it for them. If I want it more than them, it's never going to work out.
Yeah. Do you guys ever have any introverts that come into your team?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Introverts, extroverts, like we got them all. But yeah, the introverts, I would say that it's a short amount of time before you start seeing them kind of like smile a little. They start straightening up their shoulders a little bit, and they ease into the environment. So, a couple of the people here, like one of the ones that you met, you wouldn't even tell that they didn't really want to shake hands with anybody before, so it's like to see them, evolve, and to have their parents come in too, because these were 18, 19-year-olds that you met, and to see their parents come in and thank you for bringing out the son that they've always wanted to see in their kids, that is like the biggest reward. So as soon as they see that, it's more like it's easier for them to bring other people into this environment. But everybody has their process. Everybody goes through their, internal battles or whatever. So, but we're here to bring it out of them.
Everybody has their own timing, right? So there's different levels, especially when it comes to making somebody feel comfortable in this space where they're be able to give out the information out when it comes to policies or the business or so and so forth. So in your experience, when it comes to that, what do you think is the normal time frame for people to kind of get used to and comfortable to be able to give out the information to people?
It honestly can range from, like, if you have somebody that doesn't come from this at all, like they've never had, they come from working the drive-thru at McDonald's, and this is all they've known. It probably takes them about a month or two, before they're actually comfortable with that, because this business and this industry is very repetitive. So I can teach them, the whole aspect of how to run this business in a day. If they just sit down with me one day, they got it. It's very simple. It's 1, 2, 3, because that's the type of business that we're into, it's 3 options, kind of like in and out, like there's 1, 2, 3 things, and you have a secret menu as well. So it doesn't take long for them to memorize that part. And then the whole aspect of how to do the rest is just, there's a lot of shadowing that happens in this industry. Yeah. So as long as they're confident of just, and what I tell my fellow business partners, because that's what they are. I tell my business partners and new ones, just remember that you know more than them. Because even if you've been here for 2-3 days, you know more than them, because they've never been here. They've been here negative 10 days, So if that is one of the things that can bring them the confidence, and that can help them certainly do it a lot faster, because the license holds a lot of weight,
Yes.
So.
And it's so funny, like sitting beside you too, like we were just talking about the whole aura, but there's also somebody that you lean on to.
Right.
There's always,
Absolutely.
we always have mentors or a mentor that we lean on to, and we ask for guidance. For you in particular, since you put yourself in such a high position, who is your mentor?
In this industry, was definitely my coach, Alonzo Aguilar. I ran into him through a networking event here in Modesto as well. He started following me. He was always very strategic. He still is to this day. So he started following me, and I think one day randomly he posted about one of the policies, which is when I was doing my research. So, kind of putting those puzzle pieces back together. So when I was doing my research, he posted something about it. So that's when I reached out to him. It wasn't for the mentorship. It wasn't for the business. It wasn't for none of that. It was just, I was interested in learning about the policy. So when he showed it to me, he saw something more in me. He said, you have the potential for this business, which I had no idea this was even an industry, Yes. So when I came in here and I saw the way he walked into rooms, we had so much in common. Like we even had the same business idea prior to coming into this industry, which one of our mentors makes fun of us, for the type of business that it was. But anyways, so when I saw him walking into, sorry. When I saw him walking into rooms with a lot of confidence, I was like, okay, I don't know what position you hold. I know there's levels in this industry. I know there's levels in this company, but I want to be what you are. So I said that within like the first week or 2 of being a part of his team. Yeah. And he said, are you sure? I was like, yeah, I'm absolutely sure. Like, I want to be respected like that. I want to be seen as somebody that could be trusted. And he said, all right, this is what you got to do. He broke it down to me, and I said, all right, let's get to work. So I did it in my first try. So what typically can take a person about 1 year to 2 years or more to reach this level, it took me 3 months. So, and it was my first try. Like, and that's how long it takes to get that taken care of. So it was my first try, and I got there. So Alonzo definitely, like, a man of no excuses. And I hope you can do a podcast with him in the future.
Absolutely.
He's definitely a go-getter and a man of no excuses. So I have no, like, he gives me, how would you say it? Like, he gives me the formula of no excuses. Like, my life is so easy compared to the trials and tribulations that he's had in his life. So I'm like, what excuses do I have? Like, I gotta go.
What's so great about mentors too is they challenge us. They make us better, and they point out our weaknesses as well as our strengths. But I think it's very, very important for them to pinpoint the weaknesses, because that's where we get to capitalize on them. So when you were associated with Alonzo during that time, what were some of the weaknesses that he spotted and you capitalized on?
I think I'm still working on that. Mine is patience with people. Like, I am like, people that know me, like, on an independent personal level, they know I have no patience for, if I could cuss in this podcast.
Yes, absolutely.
They know I have no patience for any of that. So to me, if you come with like excuses, like, hey, I can't come because my dog had kittens. To me, it's like, all right, bye. Like, I don't got time to deal with this. And he says, Teresa, you're in the business of people. You have to learn how to process these things. It's not about just saying like bye. It's more about, all right, tell me about these kittens, So that has been challenging to me. So I've learned to bite my tongue a lot more than I used to. So patience was one of them. And I come off as a very, strong minded person, as a very, like, to the point. And I learned that in business, you have to be like a chameleon, right? Like, you have to your colors and your attitude has to change, and it has to mold according to the people. I can have an appointment right now with one of my 18-year-olds that's barely starting in the business, and I have to be like, look, this is what it takes. And then next one is my 30-year-old business partner who's been in business for 20 years and now is trying to just transition because his business is going down. So everything changes. So being a chameleon is one of the things that I had to learn, that not everybody is like me. I used to lose my patience a lot when it came to like, man, like, but why can't they just get this? And he just grabbed me one day and he said, Teresa, you are special. So I said, okay, so that means that not everybody's going to be like me. So, all right, cool. Like I got to get that part. I got to remember that not everybody comes with my mindset,
What would you say for this example in particular? Because I had an experience once where somebody messaged me directly and wanted to work under my media production, meaning they wanted to edit, they wanted to help me produce other people's podcasts as well as do mine. I said, sure, let's do it. He came over first, late, 27 minutes late. Second, hungover.
I know.
So I believe in having high standards when it comes to your circle. And business is people, but sometimes it's a very, very big red flag with a certain type of people that I'll just say no to. But maybe Alonso can teach me about that too. Be patient with people.
I was thinking you were testing me for a second because I was about to say, should I just say like, no, I would be like later, like you're not it, or should I say like, let's process this? So I see even that moment, that question like made me like, that was an argument I was having internally right now. I was like, what are you going to ask me? I think, having high standards certainly has to be that for you in your particular industry. In mine, I have to be more flexible because I am bringing on board people that don't come from this background, that don't have any business experience. And I have people that do. So I do have to kind of maneuver and, so not that I lower my standards, it's more like I just have to be understanding that in their process of understanding why our standards are the way that they are, that I have to be patient with them. But when it comes to like, if I had the ability to like, because I do have assistants, like if I have an assistant that, is not following through with my expectations of, how I carry on my business, then I definitely have to let them go. But if it's somebody that, has all those standards, they're here on time, everything is good, then we're good. We're going to thrive. We're going to win together. So but high standards are super important to me as well.
When it comes to your industry, because you guys are like the definition of a chameleon, you guys are adjusting every single day. And one thing that I love about business in particular is there is always challenge. And honestly, some of the things that business owners love is solving problems. They love it, they eke for it, and they just crave it so much. Like even me, I like when something, say I have tech issues, maybe going back home, I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with the file? Why isn't it downloading? Oh my God, what's going on with this? There's always some sort of issue or problem that needs solving. Like, oh, I got to put this puzzle over here. What are some of the day-to-day challenges for you personally?
So as simple as scheduling. I would say like I have over 50 agents in my team that all want me to run their appointments, So it's impossible. I can't split myself into 50 people. So that's one of the challenges. But, my former background is in the dispatching world, in the trucking industry. So I see myself like I'm continuing to dispatch people, like it's like I got to have my list of my certified agents versus my list of my new agents that need each other and just connecting them. So that's one of the challenges, is just, making sure that everybody's taken care of. But when it comes to the business itself, is pretty simple. Like for me, it doesn't have so many challenges, but then again, it might just be the way that I define it, because for other people, it might be challenging. So I'm blessed to be at the top of the what we call leaderboard, right? So there's always competition, obviously, in the industry and in business in general. Yeah. So myself, I see myself consistently being to at least top 10, sometimes top 5. But people ask me like, what is it that you do, or how do you overcome this and that challenge? And I'm like, you just, don't let it linger. That's it. Yeah. Just if there's a challenge, solve it on the spot. Yeah. If there's an issue, make sure you get input and leveraging each other. Like I have Alonso with more experience than myself. I have Ricardo Aguilar, who's another one of my mentors that I leverage for other things. So it's more about picking, and my challenges could particularly be just making sure that I'm using the right resource to solve the right problem.
Yes. And I think having the right team it's just so valuable, you know? And I think that's what people miss, where there's a lot of entrepreneurs to this day where they say, I'm self-made. I got this because I'm self
I
that.
hate
I'm
that
self that.
term.
It's like,
I don't like that term at
I
all.
don't think you're going to get very far. If you want to build something beautiful and something amazing, you need a team. It takes a
Yeah,
village to build something great.
absolutely.
But it's so sad to me when I hear, especially the young ones. That's why when I bump into young people here that I just did, a 19 and 18-year-old, their shoulders are back and they're confident, they're asking questions and they're talking.
Yeah.
I'm just like, man, I like this. And you're surrounded by a team, but not only a team, you're surrounded by people who are more experienced and better than you. And that's the thing that people don't like also. They don't like being in rooms where they're constantly challenged, where their shoulders are like this. But me, I
Yeah.
love it. Like I can proudly say I'm sitting next to somebody who is 10x better than me. That's why I love doing these, because I get an ROI and I hope you get some sort of ROI as well. But
Yeah.
doing this is the best and people miss that. What would you say to those people who say they are self-made or claim that that is the way to go?
I do not like that term, self-made. I think the first time I really thought about that was when I saw I think it was Forbes magazine that had a cover by Kylie Jenner that said self-made billionaire or something like that. And I said, there is nothing about you, girl, that was ever self. There's so many people that are behind that, including the photographer that took that picture, that amazing photo of you to make sure that you look great on this cover. It takes, like you said, it takes a village, you know, to be able to get to a certain place. And I think that is actually something for them to think about, all the people that helped them along the way for them to get there. Even if it was 5 people, like it doesn't matter. Like it just, they might feel self-made because it was a small group of people that helped them get there. Not necessarily like a large group of people that helped them, but to think about those 2 to 3 people, even if it was mom, dad, brother, sister, not necessarily a professional, somebody helped you along the way, and saying that you're self-made is actually very disrespectful in my opinion. So you're disrespecting the people that really helped you get there.
And every time I hear that, especially from a young cat, I'm just like, man, you would be shocked when you get put into a room and you are challenged by somebody. It is the best thing ever for you. Being surrounded by yes man is, trust me, will not get you very far. I did that in my athletic career. I was surrounded by everybody who was just like praising me constantly, and it did not help me long term.
Yeah.
But then I found a mentor that guided me the right way, prepped me for war the right way, and constantly to this day, like I'm going to see him on Monday. I'm not going in there to get a pat on the back. I'm going there to get challenged.
Yeah.
That's the best. And every time I see him, it's always a challenge for me to put a smile on his face. And I like that, you know? So
Yeah.
having those challenges is the best thing. And also, you talked about competition earlier. What is your mindset when it comes to competition? Mine in particular, it's killed or be killed.
Yes, I agree. I agree, because it's you or them, right? Like
Yeah.
you also asked me earlier about, or you mentioned something about there's no reward or no trophy for victims, and I said actually it's second place and beyond. You know, if you believe in getting a second place or third place trophy, you know that is like a victim. I'm sorry you lost. You know, here you go, you landed second or third, which I'm very actually like people judge me for that, because with my kids, like they have their little Olympics, right, and their school, which is actually happening in the next couple of weeks. So I told my daughter, like, you either win or you lose, you know. So competition is super important. So I talked to her that way. She's only 8, but deep inside of me, I was like, oh my God, she better win, because if she ends up with the second or third place, I'm still gonna have to be like, good job, baby, you know. But competition matters. It truly does bring a different person out of you. It gives you a reason to honestly just like live, really. Because like, what would life be if you're just waking up with no purpose and no like actual goal?
It would be boring.
It would be so boring. So I'm like, competition is great. To me, the type of competition that actually drives me more is people doubting me, you know? So like if somebody's doubting that I can get to a certain position, I'm like, look, I'm going to do it twice and I'm going to take pictures. So, this particular, ring that I have here, actually means that you reach, at least your first, goal of being into 6 figures. So there was this category that people said that it wasn't taken. It was a title that wasn't taken. So they said first single female to earn 6 figures in in the team, you know? So I said, oh, so no single woman has ever taken that before. And they said, no. And they've been after it for like 7 years or so, you know? So I said, oh, okay, interesting. So I found a reason to run, you know, I said, all right, so I'm going to be the first. I'm going to be the first. And after I started calling it into existence, and a bunch of other single females start coming out, and they're like, no, it's going to be me. So that's what, you know, really drives me when people say like, I'm going to beat you to it. So I'm like, no, you're not going to do that, because you can't challenge me and expect for me to lose.
Yes.
But competition matters so much. If without it, you don't level up. And even if it's like, you know, we were talking about the book of Patrick Bet-David, you know, Choose Your Enemies Wisely. It's about competition, you know. So, you know, you might be competing directly in your industry. You might be competing indirectly just to prove somebody wrong. But competition keeps you alive. It keeps you going, and it gives you the fire that you need.
Yeah. And speaking of the book, Choose Your Enemies Wisely, is something I really appreciate Patrick Bet-David and just creating this book for me personally, because growing up, I always thought showing emotion was so bad. I thought it was like a sign of weakness. But I think is when he speaks about the book is you need to have logic within that emotional state. So for me, the first time I had a really impactful, doubtful moment in my life when I dropped out of college and I told my family that I was going to fight for a living.
Wow.
That I chose that route of being a full-time athlete, and that's what I was going to do with my life. My father said to me, that's a very hard life. I don't think you're going to make turn professional. And that killed me. Back then, I think I was like 19 or something like that. And I remember just like, that was the weirdest thing, but I didn't know it back then. I don't think I had that inner dialogue where I was like knowing what this feeling is and what it did for me.
Right.
But I remember just accumulating wins within my career, being an amateur, and then finally turning professional. And then I remember the moment I turned professional and then I won my professional debut. Everybody was trying to bring me in, hug me, take pictures. I really didn't care about anybody else in the crowd. I just wanted to see my dad.
Right.
And I have a video of this in my phone right to this day, where I found him and he was like embracing me, like all happy. And I grabbed his face and I told him, I told you.
That's
I told
right.
you.
Yes.
And then I let him go. But I didn't appreciate back then. My father gave me this emotion that not only proved him wrong, but it proved me right. Mm-hmm. And even to this day, I love when people doubt me. I prefer it because that's how I innovate and that's how I grow. So if there is anybody who publicly says that to me, or they're shy away from it, they're secretly doing it over text or behind my back, I love it. Like the more doubt, the better. And honestly, even places like this, you guys are all a team, but you guys still challenge each other. And that's, to me, that is healthy competition. To the point where it's like, it's do or die is when it's another company and it's another agency. It's like, hey, this is my company versus yours.
Or another team within the company too. Yeah, in a different office, you know. We have that a lot here, trust me. So it drives us a lot. But I just want to, on record, we're the number one office, just so you know, we have a plaque for it and everything. So yes, yeah.
In your particular field or any just business field, what do you think are the multiple ways that people can just stay multiple steps ahead?
To say, but you know what? Hold on. Can you hold that question? Don't forget it.
Absolutely.
I want to go back to the moment that you said about your dad, you know, like proving him wrong and proving yourself right. What was more important which one was the biggest? Proving yourself right or proving him wrong?
The proving me right. And that's the first time I said that when it happened to my father, because that was the first time I ever felt that, or really, really felt that, like somebody close to me, like my father doubting me. And I was like, man, you want your parents to support you always. Yeah. And when there wasn't, heartbreaking. But what did I do? I used that into an advantage and not quiver and cower and be like, oh, poor me, my family doesn't believe in me. Nope. Use that as an advantage. And I did. So that's why Patrick Bet-David's book just put more emphasis on that. Use that emotion, but more importantly, have logic behind it. Because without the logic, you're not going to get very far.
Proving yourself right. Yeah, I think that, you know, to me, you know, because a lot of us, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs that don't come from a family of entrepreneurs, you know, or at least that haven't been in business for very long, it's very difficult to have family support. And you know, there's a contrast that you either, and it's funny because I think those of us who don't feel that family support are actually more of go-getters than people who do have the family support. So it's crazy to me. I'm like, but like if I had that, I'd be like more of a go-getter than, but I don't know. I just don't, I really can't seem to understand where that, where that line is drawn. Like
Yes.
how come somebody that has like mom, dad, and everybody here in this business and they're struggling, and it's like me over here, like my mom helps me with my kids, but at the same time, she doesn't necessarily agree with everything that I do and how much time I put into my business. So, and it's like, and I'm thriving. I'm like, Mom, I'm winning. What do you mean? Like I'm number one. Like I'm the best, and just finding that drive within you to want to prove yourself right, is so powerful and so impactful to me. But yeah, let's go back to your question if you remember it.
So even for you, how do you stay multiple steps ahead in your industry or just in business in particular?
So and I learned this from one of my new guys, actually. He hasn't even been here. I didn't realize that this is what it was, but he's an older man, like in his 60s. Like, he just had a heart, like open heart surgery about a year ago. Like this man is like, teaches you not to have excuses, but he said, eat for breakfast, lunch and dinner, your industry. So I didn't realize that that's exactly what I do. So I wake up and I'm like, all right, checking messages, checking my calendar. Let's see, after prayer, of course, right into my business. I drive straight to my office. I stay in my office all day long. Again, it's Sunday today. I'm going to be back here at 8:00 in the morning tomorrow. So just doing all day my business is really what keeps me a couple steps ahead. And I'm always watching videos and learning from like you, learning from other people that perhaps are in a different company. I do like reading, about the founder of other companies. I do like reading about the number one earners that have the biggest passive income, in the industry. Like how did they get to this steps? And, just learning the whole psychology behind building a team. It's people, it's about money, it's about the products, it's about the services, not only the ones that you offer, but the ones that other people offer that are not in this industry. So you can have direct comparables, so staying ahead takes a lot of time and investment and, and studying and, commitment to the industry.
And kind of like you said earlier, how you were telling your mom, I'm the best. Mom, I'm winning.
Yeah.
That is like probably the best feeling, knowing like your mom probably doesn't know it, and I know deep down she is very, very proud of you. But personally for you, how does that feel that you are such a force to be reckoned with, not just in this industry, but just life?
Well, I feel like there's the one word, and I just landed in the team that had the title to it. One of our team names is the chosen ones, so I just feel chosen. Like that's it. Like I feel chosen. Like there's always a chosen one, like that meme on Instagram with Trump. I'm the chosen one. Somebody had to do it, so that's how I feel, to be a force to be reckoned with. I just feel like I would be wasting what I have in me, because I know that, and I'm not performing by any means at my max potential. I know I'm not. So I know, like, if I could do this much with the little bit of effort that I have put into the industry, how much more could I really do? So I think chosen is the word. I feel chosen, and I know that I'm going to be making a difference and an even bigger impact. This industry, this career in particular, this position in particular is just a stepping stone to what's to come. I never saw myself, thinking about politics either, but this industry has taught me so much about how much politics really influence even financial literacy. There's something in politics that is blocking our kids from learning about money, from learning about life. So what do we have to do? I'm a mom, so I need to do something for my kids to learn, all this stuff. So they're going to learn it from me. My kids are going to be fine, but what about your kids? Where are you going to put them in school, and how are they going to learn? What about my grandchildren one day? So all of that is going to be an impact. So I do see myself potentially trying to save California from this mess that we're in. Maybe not governor. I'm perfectly happy being a great second, a great second too. But hopefully my coach, Ricardo Aguilar, can hear this podcast one day and say, like, man, I really do have people willing to fight with me to bring back California. But I do want to see my mentors. I know they have the capacity to go into politics, and I'd be right there with them. So I feel like that would really bring out my max potential, and I would really be like, a chosen one to really bring back some glory to our communities.
You are also looked at as a mentor. How does that feel? Knowing that you look up to your mentor so much, but there's a lot of people out there who look up to you as a mentor.
So personally, it feels like a big responsibility that I have to really watch what I do and what I say, because if they're going to be out there like trying to do what I'm doing, like even my Instagram, I do give them a lot of heads up, guys. Like, I'm so random. Like, I will post, I will rant, it'll be political. Sometimes it'll be music. Sometimes people think I'm in a relationship. Sometimes think I just broke up. Like, it's so varied that I'm just like giving them that warning that I'm your leader, but at the same time, I'm a human being, So I want them to understand that part. But I feel like that's a responsibility that I love to carry, because it gives me a reason to like make sure, like, what am I doing? What am I really doing with my life? Am I really setting up that example that I want to set up? So it feels great. It honestly feels great, because the way that I look up to my mentors, the way that I like, whenever they come into the room and start speaking, I'm like zoned in. Like, I'm just completely focused on what they're saying, taking notes. And sometimes I'm not taking notes but it's not because I'm not paying attention. It's because I'm so zoned into the message that I just feel like it's just them and I, it's my mentor and it's myself in the room, and there's nobody else that's there. So I truly become one in the moment. So I want to be looked at that way, and I don't think I'm there yet, but it's how do I get there?
Yeah. And my mentor always reminds me, remember who's watching you, whether it be your family, whether it be your siblings, whether it be your cousins, your team, so on and so forth. Always remember who's watching you. For everybody else who's struggling for that, do you think it's just their environment or their circle on why they lean towards those distractions?
Absolutely. And I think social media has a lot to do with that too. Which part of me, like in the whole, a view on banning TikTok, I wasn't okay with that, in the whole, freedom of speech, and, giving people the ability to choose what they want to listen to. Because of TikTok, I'm here.
Yeah.
Like, should TikTok have been banned before I even discovered this plan, I wouldn't be here today. So they do some good, for some people. But I think that, social media has really sold a lot of young people and even adults, a false picture of what life really can be like. I know couples who post nothing about love, and behind doors, like, that they're beefing and there's so much stuff going on. So to me, like, it's easy for me now that I understand that, it's easy for me to put those two apart. But for those young people that don't have that good environment, stepping out of that it's friction. Like, they have their friends over here and they know they have a good time. They have a good time with their friends, and they're coming over here and they're having a good time with us. But yet when it gets to the point of, okay, now we got to get serious. Like, we had some fun, clean fun, and then we got to get serious. That's the point where they're like, like, it's not comfortable anymore. Like, I'm not, like, I have to learn something. I have to stop doing something. So I always tell them, just be a part of this environment. Even if you're just sitting there, just absorbing it all in, you don't have to participate. Just be a part of this environment. And it's slowly but surely, you're going to evolve into a different person. And I tell them all, and I give them a warning. This business and this industry is going to basically like remove a blindfold from your face. Like, it removes the biggest blindfold. The people that you thought were going to be so down with you in this industry are the first ones to tell you that you're crazy. And the people that you least thought were going to be, ready to back you up are the first ones that come. So, and I tell them also, your clients are going to become your friends quicker than your friends are going to become your clients. So as long as they discover that and they trust me with it, they're going to be just fine. But my advice to them is always just stay. Their only job is don't quit. If it's going to take me a long time to get them to that point, as long as they don't quit, they're going to be just fine.
And it takes a lot of discipline to be able to put yourself in a situation like you are currently. But when you get to that success, there's even more discipline that needs to be involved, because distractions come our way always. How do you weed out the distractions personally?
That's one of the things that I think Alonzo meant to tell me when he said I'm a special. I don't, there's nothing really that's a distraction to me. So I can't identify with that, unfortunately. I've been a single mom for about, I don't know, I lost count already, like 8 years, I want to say. But because after I made that decision, it wasn't a decision to just leave a marriage. It was a decision to change my life and to just really become the entrepreneur that I always wanted to become. So I've never partied. I've never done drugs. I've never gotten drunk. I've never, done any of that stuff. So therefore, and I have a very non-addictive personality, I guess, because you know how people can get addicted to coffee. Oh, yeah. They get addicted to a certain snack or a certain something. Like, I'll have my little periods of time where it's like Starbucks every day, and then I'm like, I'm just gonna stop. So I can turn it off and on whenever I want to. So that's not my personal thing, but I do. I want to learn from people that have addictive addictive personalities, because that helps me lead other people that do. So I always resort to books though. Yeah. So I have one of my agents right now was going through a personal struggle of, you know, leaving a relationship and finding somebody good, somebody better for them. And she was trying to like go back into that. So she was saying that she was feeling attracted to kind of like go back to what she was in, but it was a very toxic environment. I gave her the book Outwitting the Devil. I said, you need to read this. You need to listen to this. You know, this is going to give you like so much perspective of what you're being tempted with. And she said, everything that I was a part of before is looking so good right now. And everything that I'm going to is looking so challenging. I said, I just need you to listen to this book. Yeah. You know, so I resort to books all the time when I don't have the answer. I know certain books have a message that I know that could help them. So but books are my go-to.
And honestly, I found books late in life, unfortunately. My family always told me dive into the books, turn off the video games. I was like, yeah, right, okay. But I filled up my entire living room with books. I have an entire library at my home. I remember I went through a whole year, just a book a week. And I'm a very slow reader, so that was very difficult for me. But It took discipline. Like my mentor always said, if you don't read, you don't want to be free. Because every time you flip that page, you learn something different. And you kind of just like have that like slap in the face. You're like, oh my God, what else don't I know? That's why books to me are so essential, but it's so weird how you don't see it anymore. That's why when I was setting up the production and I kind of looked over here, I was like, oh my God, there's books. Because I don't see that a lot. Like people aren't even literate anymore when it comes to just being able to speak clearly, or nobody really reads books anymore.
And that's how you tell though, that if they don't read, it's in the vocabulary. It's in how they talk that you can tell that a person doesn't read.
Yes.
I actually, if you go to my office, because we're borrowing this office today, because mine is a little smaller, but in my office, I don't have so many books. I have maybe a couple, like some that are on that side over there. Those are my books. I just bought those. Yeah. But to me, it's because they're so valuable. I don't want them here. Yeah. I don't want somebody to be like, can I borrow this? I am so protective over my books. That to me is my treasure. Yeah. So I don't have them so much in the office because of that. Look, like those books over there with the power of, I'm not even a wife, but Power of a Praying Wife, I thought was such a powerful book that I read it because I do coach wives, you know? So I read that book and I thought about 3 of the ladies in my team that are wives. And I said, I think they need this book. So I read it to know how to coach them and mentor them at the same time in a position that I don't hold. So I give them a book that is like, hey, here you go. I read this. I think since you are in that position, like this is going to help you. It's going to help the future me, you know, the future version of me as a wife. But, you know, now that I'm not, I feel like you need to read this. So then I give it to them. So reading is so, so important. And in this industry, especially in this company, it can't be an issue because we have a book of the month every single month. We have a book club here every single morning, 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock in the morning. Any agent that is available to come into the office, it's about 15 to 20 people that come and read 1 hour a day. And then on top of that, you know, we encourage them to listen to audibles, listen to podcasts that have so much value in it.
And I know you were talking about earlier about addictive personalities. I don't know if you have one, but I would say you're addicted to learning. I would say you're addicted to personal development. You're addicted to enhancing your life. Would you agree?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And addiction in a form of also borderline being identified with obsession, you know? Yes. So I also heard another statement that says obsession will beat talent anytime. So I'm obsessed with this, you know, and I've become so mentally obsessed with this, you know, game that it's because I'm compressing time. I also know it's temporary because then we go back to being a non-addictive personality. That I do think that when I say I'm done with this industry, when I've done what I wanted to accomplish in this industry, which is become a multimillionaire, that's when I'm just going to be able to turn it off, you know? So I'm going to be able to go move on and go to my next thing. And just when I decide it's off and it's off. So, but for now, that is my current addiction. Yeah.
I feel like we have this in common. You know, when they say like, oh, you need to be balanced, so on and so forth. And honestly, they say you gotta know when to turn it off. But I like this feeling. Like I am married to this game.
Yeah.
I'm married to the game of business.
That's why my ring is in that finger. So, you know, I'm glad you brought that up because my ring of this industry is in my wedding finger because I'm married to the business for sure.
Exactly. But people literally will tell you need to be more balanced. You need to know when to turn it off and relax. It's like, but what if we like this feeling so much and we kind of don't want to escape from it?
Right.
And it almost kind of weeds out those people as well, where if you're trying to shut me down and put me in a position where I am lowering my standards and stopping my momentum, what are we doing? A guest that I had on, she was very similar in this situation. She's a senior vice president for a public traded company, Nutanix. And one thing that she talked about in my show was blending. How do you blend the two? Where your family and work, how do you blend those together rather than just balance? Because balance is like saying something's more important than the other thing. So how do you blend the two where it's like perfectly natural and perfectly at flow? Do you feel like you have been put yourself more of a blending rather than balance? Because I know we don't like turning it off. I know we
Yeah.
don't like stopping. We are go-getters and we love it. But do
Yeah.
you have more of a blend and flow when it comes to your day-to-day?
To me, it's more like a let's just see what the heck's gonna happen today. It's not. I don't even know if it's a blend either because I don't believe in balance. I don't
Yeah.
believe that there's such a thing. Not for people like us, for
No,
sure. It's for
no.
people that want to be average. Balance is for people that want to be average. That's not what I'm looking for. So I'm a single mom, so I do sometimes feel like I fail as a mom, right? Naturally. But I also feel like it's going to be to give them more, at the end of the day. Again, I'm compressing time. So I'm okay with having no balance right now. So right now, I would say maybe 75-80% of my life is business. The other 20% is family, but it's only like a drop by. Like, hey, I'm here. Let's have like a quick meal together. My daughter has a doctor's appointment. Let me go take her, drop her off, and bring her back. Like, it's just little quick things. Hey, let me FaceTime my daughter really quickly. Like, are you good? Did you eat? Things like that. That is my family side. It's nowhere near like, let's go have a family vacation. Let's go do this for a day. Let's go. It's not there yet because it's going to get there. But I do believe that it's not about the quantity of time that you spend with your family or you have on the personal side. It's about the quality of time. So if you have 1 hour with your kids and you make it a quality hour, that counts more than a parent who comes home tired from their 9 to 5 job and has to put them to bed early to go to school the next day. And hurry up, let's go. Like that's not quality. Like your kids are just trying to see you like go to bed and take a shower and that's all you get. And I'm failing. Like, I don't get it. So, no balance. And I don't know. I think I would have to think more about how do I handle that. But I also don't think it's too much of a blending because there's no measure for that to me either.
And
But
I
I like that
know-
perspective though.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
This is Cinco de Mayo. It's on a Sunday. People are partying right now. People are barbecuing right now. There's a handful of people here who are working. You even, your business, you're all
Yeah.
good to go. You're ready to go. You're a doer. How are you during the times where it's like you're out and about, vacation in particular? Because me personally, I remember I went to Cancun, I think 2 years ago. 2 days in, I was like, I want to go home.
Yeah, I'm the same way. So to the point that I haven't taken an actual vacation over 3 years right now, at this point, over 3 years. But my business feels like a vacation.
Yes.
So I'm about to go to Dallas, Texas in like 9 days, and I'm going to be out there for a whole week with an amazing group of people. And we have such a good time and we're learning, we're growing, and we're going to have dinner. Terry's Black Barbecue, my favorite barbecue like on the planet that I have yet discovered, right? So I get excited for those things. So to me, that is a vacation, So I think that when you live a life, when you are in a career that you enjoy every day, life is a vacation. You don't need a break from that. So yeah, it makes sense that you go away for 2-3 days and you're like, I want to go back. Like, where's my laptop? Like, where's my book?
Oh my
Like you want to
gosh.
just come back to this and just continue to grow. But my disconnect, and if I ever do have to disconnect, is only a couple of hours. And it's because I have to, like, I got to do some stuff at home. And I got to solve some things over there. But that's it. That my life is a vacation.
When you started to touch success, when you started to reach and you put yourself in a different milestone, did you feel, say, your personal loved ones or maybe your friends started to kind of look at you differently?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I've always been the oddball, in the family to begin with. So I just the fact that they saw me coming out here more, they had more opinions. They had more feedback that I didn't welcome, and I learned to just say, okay, like they have an advice, you should do this instead. Okay, and I'm like, eventually I do tell them, like, you really want me to like want the average life? Like, just get my house and my car and that's it. Like, I'm not about that. So, but yeah, that's just, I just handle it as it comes and I deal with it however I may deal with it or however my mood might be in the moment, too. So they just got to be careful with me.
Do you hear those stories too, where a lot of people, when they do reach success, they put themselves in a different stage of life? I would say at a different frequency. right?
Yes.
So they're here
Yeah.
and say the people that they grew up with, say friends, they kind of stayed
They
at this
stay behind.
frequency and they're so confused on, wait, why are you going this way? What are you doing? Come
Right.
back over here with us. It's better here. It's better down here. And
Yeah.
sometimes they just kind of look at you like, oh my God, you think you're better than us? It's like, no, I'm just at a different frequency
Right,
now. I
right.
don't want to stay the same. I don't want to talk about the same stuff we do every time we get together.
Right.
I'd rather personally talk to conversations like we have been right now
Yeah.
for like over an hour. There's more ROI there. There's more how we walk out of here better. Doesn't everybody want conversations like that? But like
Yeah.
you said, the outliers of the world, like we don't want that average life.
We don't.
How do you associate yourself with people since you have put yourself as such a standard? How do you go back to like saying being in that environment where everything is just kind of normal?
Yeah. That's easy. If they're not like my mom, my dad, my brother, or my sister, I don't.
Yes.
I just don't associate. Like it's sometimes there's family parties that I get invited to and I just go for the act of my presence just there. And I probably will sit with my own kids, just having a good time saying hello to everybody. And that's about it. No conversations really, unless like they all know what I do. Sometimes some of them come up to me and they ask me a question. Hey, like my job, they're trying to give me this 401k. Like what should I do? And then I'll engage into their conversation. But, I do stop and I listen to certain conversations because I remember as a kid, I used to see like, Mexicans, like the men are always like bunched up in a corner and the women are always over here feeding the kids or in their corner, right? So I used to think that the men would talk about really important stuff. Like I remember having that mindset. I'm like, man, I wonder what they're talking about. Like those are the guys that bring money to the house. Like, man, there must just be some intense conversations. And then as I grew up and I hear the stuff that they talk about, I'm like, that was it. Like all these
Football,
years.
beer.
Yeah. And hopefully it was just football and beer, but it was the randomest things. And I'm just like, they're really arguing about that. Like, I'm like, man, like it's crazy to kind of go back and now think that it wasn't conversations of value. So I don't associate with that anymore. And I'm just kind of like thinking like, man, like I just pray. I honestly just pray for them. Like I pray to God that, and even if it's not with me, if it's through a different avenue, that they find that life is more than that. That life is more than a quinceañera. That life is more than just like, baptizing your kid and inviting half the world that doesn't even like you, that is going to come and criticize your party regardless. Yeah. So I stopped having birthday parties for my daughters as well. What do you want, baby? Like you want me to take you to somewhere like let's just go and have fun for you and I, and that's it. Like we don't need to have anybody else who's just going to be here to judge, like, why are you doing what you're doing?
Pick this color balloons.
Yeah, exactly. Like, man, and this food was horrible. Like the mom doesn't even look that nice in that dress. Like, like what is it? What is all this about? Like, I'm not about that. Like, I don't even go to the same church for the same reason because it's just a bunch of people that are just criticizing what everybody's wearing. And I'm like, this is a church. Like, let's just have some good time. Let's welcome everybody and let's just be positive. So that's, I change my environment. I just don't associate with the people that are talking about others. I just completely separate myself from that.
And I have learned personally just from experience that friends, very seasonal. I was always the clown of the classroom, like trying to impress everybody, wanting to be around my friends all the time. And then learning, wait, nobody's really around anymore. It's very seasonal. So it's like, nobody's here to feed me. Nobody's here to wipe my own butt. Nobody's here to tuck me in a bed. I got to do all that stuff my own because nobody is coming to save you. And I think people need to understand that too.
Nobody's going to come to save you. At the end of the day, at the very end of your day, when your head hits the pillow, it's just you and your mind and your thoughts. That's it. So, for those people who even if they're married, at one point it still is just you, and it doesn't matter what other people, come and tell you about you. You have to discover that about yourself. So I don't think that, thinking that friends or people can be permanent in your life could be very healthy. You have to love and appreciate them as seasonal, like not like be mad that your friends are no longer your friends. Just, give them some love and send them on their way, and don't be mad at them because one day they might come back. They might have that hunger to grow and they see your success. And because you sent them out with love, they can come back to you to grow. And actually now that becomes one of your mentees. But enjoying everybody for the season that they belong in your life, I want to say like not necessarily like in a very seasonal way, but even your kids are seasonal because they go through different stages, like, when they depend on you, when they don't depend on you so much, now when they have their own ideas and mom, you're not so cool anymore, So all these stages that you go through with your kids, like their stages are seasonal. They might be in your life for a long time, but they're going to grow and be their own adults with their own mindset. So just seeing them as seasonal also makes it easier as a parent to let your kids go and have their own life as well.
Yes, agreed. And I really wanted to go into the CEO of your company, Patrick Bet-David. I would consider him a faraway mentor. I've never met the man, but I look forward to meeting him one day. What are some of the key takeaways that you have learned from Patrick Bet-David?
So I think Patrick is in my opinion the best storyteller and the biggest visionary that I've ever seen. And I do hope you get to meet him one day because his presence is just so powerful. Like if you believe in frequencies and auras, like you're gonna get a whole different experience from. I even get the chills just to think about his presence because he's a giant and like physically a giant and also like in energy he's a giant. So the way that his eyes tell everything, and he says it too, like eyes tell everything. Yes. So to be there and stand with him and look in him in the eye and stuff, it's very powerful experience. So and remind me your question in particular to Patrick. What was your question?
What were some of the key takeaways that you've learned from Patrick Bet-David?
The biggest thing that I have learned from him is just, to watch what you allow in your mind. Like, what ideas are you adopting? What ideas are you being okay with? So he's very careful about that, the things that he accepts and the people that he accepts around him. He is so picky about the circle that is around him. And even as he exits being the CEO of our company this year, he does say, I'm going to grab it. A lot of people that are in these contacts are not going to have access to me no more. Only certain people of them are going to stay in my life because I'm going into a different stage in my life. So that is one of the reasons why I'm so big at being a person that can be counted on in this agency, because I know my mentors are going to be one of the ones that stay on his new line of contact. So if that's the case, then I know I have an opportunity to still kind of see him one day, but it's just that being careful about what ideas, what mindset, what you're adopting to move forward with, because it's going to just impact the rest of your life. So that's just one of the many things that I've learned from Patrick.
Yeah. And do you take some of his principles into your day-to-day life?
So yes, he always says, and I have him written down, but because I'm very forgetful when it comes to like organizing my thoughts and my mind's all over the place. But he says to pray for patience, for understanding, and a couple of other things that he mentions. But he used to pray for God, what was the word? Basically just like being understanding of people for certain ideas that they have, but he actually stopped praying for that because he said that it actually led to lowering your standards. So I think it was understanding that he said, but that was one of the things that I thought was very impactful as well. That I understand. So I adopt that mindset. I mean, the other thing is his signature line is the future is bright. So having that as a part of my life every single day has certainly helped me, because I always tell everybody the future is bright, the future is bright. And one point he even said the future is nuclear bright, because of how bright he thinks that the future can be. He knows that it can be. So having him as a visionary and a mentor in my life has certainly helped me a lot. And I actually, like I said, I found this company and I felt like I found home because of his mindset, because of the way that he is. I thought like I was crazy, but knowing people like him, like he's super crazy, I'm like, all right, I'm not that crazy, so I'm on the right track, so exactly.
Yeah. And speaking of the future is bright, it's so funny how people get mad at me that I walk every day with, say, a smile. People are so curious and scratching their head of like, why is he not mad? Why is he not pissed at the world? Why is he not doing this? Why is he not reacting? Why is he not protesting? Well, the future is bright. Life is beautiful. You know what I mean? Is like, is the world sometimes going crazy, politics, so on and so forth, all the riots going on, yada, yada. Yes, it's a little chaos in the world, as there always will be, but regardless, the future is bright. And I feel like you have to have that outlook. And honestly, it's all within your environment as well. And from the both of us, we have a great environment where we're able to walk into a room and we're just smiling. We're happy. We have purpose. We have fulfillment. And I think people just prioritize and pay attention to the wrong stuff. Like I remember I posted a study this morning, like 76% of millennials are not financially literate. But I was like, but when it comes to understanding Kendrick Lamar and Drake's lyrics,
Yeah.
they're all about it. They're like, oh my God, they remember it from bar to bar. But I'm like, but you can't know the importance of where your money is going and how to make it work for you, but you would rather prioritize nonsense. But do you get those eyes sometimes where it's like, why isn't she mad? Why isn't she reacting like everybody else? Why isn't she posting this? Like, what's going on?
I think it goes back to like when you have like that side of the family who's not supportive, when they have an opinion about something in general. And I'm like, well, do they pay your bills? Do they do this for you? And they're like, well, no. I'm like, well, then why are we talking about this? Yeah. And they're like, well, you should be so shocked that this happened in their life. I'm like, I honestly don't care. It doesn't affect me. Are they good? Are they healthy? Are they dying? Do they need help? Like, that's the questions that we need to be asking ourselves. So yeah, I do get that, reaction. And then when you posted that this morning, I saw it and I was like, wait, they're beefing? I was like, I didn't even know that was happening, So you don't find yourself knowing these different things. And through my teenager, like my daughter's 16, is sometimes how I find out certain things that are happening out there. And then she'll tell me like, bruh. And I'm like, don't talk to me like that. I don't like to be talked to like that. And I will respond back to her that way. Like, bruh, I'm not your bruh. I'm your mom. Yeah. So even just vocabulary words in general, I don't even know what is like the it word, the whole fina. But I mean, I like to find out because at the end of the day, like when you do have people that come to you that do know about this stuff, you don't want to be also looking like completely clueless, So I do try to learn as much as I can, or when I hear something new, I'm like, all right, how do you do this, right? But how do you talk about this, or what does it mean? And then somebody I think told me about the fina, whatever. They said somebody like misspelled it one day, and then it just became like everybody was making fun of it, and then it just became the new word. So I'm like, well, they better not put it in the dictionary because I swear, like I would lose hope for humanity if those kind of words make it into the dictionary. Just tell me what it means. That's it.
So I have 2 more questions for you.
Yeah.
So this is called High Value Discussions, and this is hosted by me. But if this was hosted by you, High Value Discussions hosted by Teresa, if there was one question that you would want to ask me, what would it be?
To me, a question to you, Daniel, would be how was it to you, or what was it specifically for you that made you pivot? Because you mentioned about being a bad boy, right? About being a bad kid when you were younger. What do you think was it that changed that mindset, or at what point did that shift for you?
I remember when I pursued my life into being an athlete. So in particular, I was a professional fighter, and that gave me discipline. That gave me relentlessness. That gave me a level of consistency that I didn't know I had. And the more I got involved in the game, the more I just got personally better. And it made me put me in spots that I didn't know I could be mentally. And that correlates to also business, because to me, fighting is one of the scariest things in the world, because you have somebody training to literally kill you legally. That is the only sport in the world that you are actually able to kill somebody legally and not get in trouble for it. So when I know somebody is training for me for 3 months every single day to kill me on a particular day, nothing really intimidates me that much. And like business fascinates me. Business intrigues me. Business, like I said, I'm just married to it. I love it so much, because something my mentor always taught me is business is a lot like fighting. How you study your opponent is exactly how you're studying your competition. What are their weaknesses? What are their strengths? How can you beat them? How do you put them multiple steps behind you? So that's how I kind of calculate things. I correlate to my fighting experience to business, but my drive in that switch came from fighting. And it grew from there. And like I said, I'm a baby when it comes to this entrepreneurship world, but I love it, and I'm pursuing it like how I would from fighting, because I'm not fighting anymore. I retired from that because for health purposes. I don't want to be 50 years old and having my family carrying me around the house. I don't want that. I want to live a long, healthy life.
Yeah. So, but hey, business is war too, you know, in a sense. That's Patrick has a shirt that says business is war. So I can see why entrepreneurship can still give you that sort of a drive, in a way. So
and it is war. Like that's the thing. Like I approach it that way too, because I remember personally, I had somebody on my podcast a long time ago where he said, I'm coming for your spot. And he said it right across from me. And I looked at him, I was like, dude, you understand what kind of like realm that I come from? It is do or die for me. So that's it comes from fighting at the end of the day. And I'm
Yeah.
grateful that I had that experience in my life. It was one of the greatest chapters of my life, being a professional athlete. So I still have that, like, that itch, but to do it professionally, like how I did, I wouldn't anymore, because that's the thing. It takes you away from everything. You have no life after everything. Like when you see your family, you're not really with them. You're sleeping because you're recovering from training 3 times a day.
Yeah.
There is no life when it comes to
Yeah.
professional fighting or professional athletes.
Yeah.
But I like that. And that's what makes me appreciate the greats more when it comes to Brady, when it comes to Jordan, when it comes to Kobe, because these guys are sick individuals. And I know you and we are sick individuals, because what do we want to do? We want to be great.
Yeah.
And what does it take to be great? We got to be sick every single day. But the switch came from fighting, for sure.
I love it. I love it. So yeah, it makes sense. I like when I do go work out, it's kickboxing as well. So you know, I don't do it as often as I should, but I can see why you can get that drive from that.
My very, very last question for you. So, and by the way, I hope we do this again, because this was phenomenal.
I love it. Yeah.
So
Anytime.
my last question, out of all your experience when it comes to business, what is probably the greatest lesson that business ever gave you?
That's a great question. So the greatest lesson that I've learned in business is that it's just a people lesson. I want to say, like, people are just so dynamic that it lets you discover how dynamic you could be. You know, so I didn't know I was capable of all this, that everything that I'm accomplishing up to this point, if it wasn't because of business, you know. So business is a teacher. So being in business could be brutal. It could be very rewarding, but it's an ongoing next level kind of thing. So you go from you know, lesson to success, and I don't believe I've touched not even the surface of success. Like I'm somewhere like barely at the base of it, you know. So and I don't know if I ever will feel like I reached the like the tip of success that I would want to reach, right? I mean I know I will, but like at the end of the day, like when I get there, like I don't want it to I want it to feel like, oh okay, this was the base. This wasn't really the tip. Like, here we go, right? What's next? So
what's the next lane?
What's the next mountain, right? Like, so I do feel like, you know, business is just, you know, that's been my biggest lesson, the dynamics that we could learn about ourselves.
Yes, beautiful. Teresa, are there any closing statements you'd like to give for the podcast?
My closing statement could just be as simple as just follow what you want to do what makes you happy in life, because at the end of the day, it is just you. It's just you. And when you go to heaven, if you do believe that you'll go to heaven, right? When you respond to God, I think the biggest question that everybody has to answer is, did you do your best? And did you do your best for others, not just for yourself? So as long as we can give a good answer to God when we do get to that position, like, I think that anything that you do is going to be great, and it's going to be very rewarding.
Agreed, 110%. Well, Teresa, honestly, you did not have to do this. And I feel like it shows a lot within your character, because we met briefly in February and you didn't need to do this, honestly. You really didn't need to. You're a very productive woman. I don't like to say the word busy. I like to say productive.
Yes, that's my
word. And I
too.
really genuinely appreciate you giving me your time, because like I said, off air, I love sitting next to people like you. I love learning to people like you. It's the best for me. It gives me this fulfillment and meaning where it's like, man, I love being surrounded by these people. And the more I do this, it's like, man, there's just another outlier. There's another killer out there doing it in business, and I love associating myself with, and I love having them involved in my network. But honestly, I appreciate this, and I'm honored by your presence, and for you even allow me to do this. Thank you so much for coming on, and I hope to do this again.
Of course we will. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for choosing me, because I know you're very picky with that too. So thank you so much for thinking of me, and very, very great conversation. I loved it.
Thank you all for tuning in to today's episode. If you got a lot of value out of this, please do me a favor and support our channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. Make sure to hit that follow button on Spotify to stay updated with our latest episodes. And if you are listening on Apple Podcasts, I would greatly appreciate it if you would leave a 5-star rating, followed by with a review. Again, thank you all for the support. Stay loving, stay hungry, and stay excellent.